getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
Today we're talking about how your past does not define you. This is a very sensitive topic, of course, because we all have a past. Everyone is prone to reflecting on their past, some more than others. Thank you so much for the love. And that's okay as long as you're reflecting on things that are not breaking you down. Thursday, happy Thursday. Thank you so much. So yes, reflecting on the past, it's okay to do that, but it's when you obsess over the past, that's when it's a problem. There's a huge difference between reflecting and then obsessing or fixating or however you want to put it. So you need to figure out what it is about your past that bothers you so much. Why is it that you have either one particular memory, a series of memories, whatever the case may be? Figure out what's going on within you that is unsettled still, because it's something that you have to heal from. Something that's within your subconscious mind that comes out in different ways at different times. Sometimes it could be something that you're doing currently that your subconscious mind reflects, and connects to the past with for whatever reason. And we always talk about getting to the root cause of what's going on within us, and that's something that we really have to focus on. We have to maintain our current lifestyle. A lot of people sabotage their current lifestyle because they're too busy worrying about the past lifestyle or the future. You can't worry about something that hasn't happened yet, and you surely can't worry about something that has already happened. It happened for a reason. It's done. What's done is done. Either you can fix it or learn to let it go and move forward. Fix it and move forward, or just don't do anything at all and move forward. Okay, so we have to stop punishing ourselves for things that we've done. You are not your past life. Your past happened to you, happened for you, happened for you, not to you. It worked in your favor. I promise it's going to unfold at some point. It just takes time to unfold. And little do you know, those are literally blessings in disguise most of the time. Because I guarantee that something, or if not more than one thing that you experienced in the past or learned in the past, you can apply now, or you can apply in the future, or you can help those around you some kind of way with what you've learned. So there's such a thing as dwelling on the past, like I said. Do you have thoughts from the past that won't go away no matter how busy you appear to be? Do you find yourself reflecting on the past more than you should? Understand that these memories, they don't serve any good purpose, because all they do is distract you. All they do is bring about feelings of discouragement. You feel discouraged and you start to feel tired. You feel defeated. You feel like you just can't bounce back. You're not resilient. You just start to feel really negative unnecessarily. And that's why I always say, like, either look back on things that are going to help you to remember who you are, remember where you came from, and it's going to feel good, or just don't reflect at all. Because if you're sitting there and you're thinking back to times where you've had quote unquote failures, and I use air quotes because I don't believe in failure. Failure is not an option. We're not failures at all. We just make mistakes. It's a part of life, I don't believe anyone in this life is a failure per se. They just have a hard way of coping with life. They make mistakes. They do things that aren't so favorable. So what? Your past doesn't define you, like we're saying. So it's not about the past. It's about what you plan to do. It's about what you're doing right now. What was your intention? Is a good question to ask yourself. Did you have good intentions when the situation went down? With that quote unquote mistake, and I'm gonna keep using air quotes because mistakes and failures and all that language, it's negative, and it's not a real thing to me, because I feel like everything happens the way it's supposed to. And I'm not going to get into my theory of that today because it's really complex, but I'm just going to touch base with that a little bit. So yes, I believe that everything happens for a reason. Nothing is done by accident. Everything is done with a greater purpose, some that we can't see right now, some that we don't understand, but over time we will understand them. So it's important to understand what you've learned, understand where you've come from, understand how much you've grown, and acknowledge your growth. This is one that is so crucial. Please acknowledge your growth, and don't think that you haven't grown at all. It's literally impossible for me to believe that not one single person has grown since their past. Like, you've evolved in your age for sure. That's growth. You've evolved in the way that you think. You definitely don't think the same. I guarantee you don't. You might have similar thoughts here and there, but for the most part, experiences are going to change you inevitably. So there's no way that you're going to 100% be the same person every single day. It's just not possible. It's not the way we're designed to be. We have so many different experiences 24 hours a day. Even in your sleep, you're experiencing dreams. That's building your mindset some kind of way. You experience every second of the day, even when your eyes are closed, like I said, because something is in your subconscious. It's giving you an experience, a subconscious experience. It may not be that you're awake, but you're still conscious in a way.
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
Um, so that's something that we have to understand too, is that the power of the mind, just as easy as it is for you to obsess over the past, it's easy for you to move forward into the future and live in the current as well. So take all of that unnecessary energy, because it is unnecessary energy that you're burning on the past, and apply it to the current, apply it to your future. Don't worry so much about what you didn't do. Focus on what can be done. What can you do now? What can you change now? Do you have things that are within your control? Is your life right now, does it feel chaotic? Does it feel like you're out of control? If so, why? If so, how can you change that? And if you can't change it, okay, just move on and do your best. Keep doing your best. Never stop. We're never going to stop. Where we can take a pause, we can take a break, and we can, get ourselves together, regather ourselves, regroup, be resilient, but we're never going to stop. That's not an option. Okay, so that's what you have to tell yourself. You have to tell yourself, okay, I understand I might have done things that I'm not so proud of, and that doesn't mean that you're condoning your actions. That doesn't mean that you're making it okay. You're not giving yourself a pass. You're just understanding that those things happen. You might not have made the best decisions, but you made those decisions at the time. And that's what you have to acknowledge. You did it at the time, and maybe you thought it would give you good results. Maybe you didn't care. It doesn't matter which side you fall on. Just understand it happened. You can't take it back. Either you wanted to do well, or you just wanted to do just anything. You really didn't put much thought into it. And most of the time, that's why we regret a lot of the things that we do, because we don't put thought into what we're doing. We just act on impulse. And that's important to not do that. You don't want to be impulsive with your intentions. You don't want to be impulsive with anything that you do, because that is simply reacting. And in life, we can't react to everything. We can't just react automatically. We have to really think things through. We have to filter out our thoughts. We have to filter out our actions and choose the most reasonable action to take. So it's all about trial and error. Of course, you're never going to make the most perfect decision. You're never going to be perfect in your decision making skills. You're never going to be perfect, period. But understand, as an imperfect being, that gives you room to grow, that allows you the room to breathe. It gives you so much to work with. That way, you're not boxing yourself in, you're not overwhelming yourself, you're not being unrealistic, you're being very reasonable, you're having logic, and you're doing the work the proper way, you know. So that is what we really need to focus on. And understand that there is a difference between dwelling and recalling the past. Like I said, when you dwell on the past, you stay stagnant, you stay stuck, you feel stuck. You feel like you can't move on from things that you didn't do well, or you feel like you can't do anything well. You never try those things again, and you like kind of cancel it out, and that's not healthy, because you shouldn't cancel something after a few times or one time at that. I feel like you should keep trying. If something really matters to you, keep trying until something works. Keep trying different strategies until it works. Like, don't think, oh, well, it didn't work in the past, so it's definitely not going to work anymore. If that was the case for everybody, then we wouldn't have anything. We wouldn't have such a thing as success. Success wouldn't even exist if people had that mindset that you should just give up because it didn't work a few times. There are going to be countless times where you have to keep trying and trying and trying and trying and trying. And I mean, it's like beating a dead horse after a certain point. But that one time, I can't guarantee when it'll be, but you're going to break through and you're going to thank God that you didn't give up. So don't worry about, how long it takes. Don't worry about how hard it is. Don't focus on the difficulties. Just focus on the task at hand, getting things done, figuring out what strategies work versus what doesn't work. Realizing that is no point in harping on the past. Just move on from it and do what needs to be done, and just take control of your life again, you know? Because when we think about the past, we feel like we don't have any control over our life. We start to lose ourselves to what could have been. We have those thoughts of what could have been. It's not about what could have been, it's about what can be right now. Don't think so much about should have, would have, could have, because that's a defeatist attitude. That is going to set you up for defeat, for failure. And that's the only way you fail is when you give up. And with that kind of attitude and that kind of mindset, it's easier, not saying that you will give up, but it's easier for you to set yourself up to give up when you have that kind of way of thinking, you know? So like I said, try so much not to dwell on the past, but recall, reflect, look back at it and realize that, okay, even though when you look at the past, it still may feel unpleasant. It's not going to feel good. It's still going to be unpleasant. But as the memories, come into focus and you reflect on them and you see how much you've grown since then, you focus on the growth, you maximize on the positives rather than the negatives, then it doesn't feel so bad. You get what I mean?
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
You dwell, it's purely negativity. It's no positive mindset behind it. There's no positive outcomes to it. There's no growth in it. You don't see anything. All you see is failure, 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 and there's nothing else, which is not true, because there's two sides to every situation. There's good and bad. There's always good. Even when you can't see it, you have to dig beneath the surface sometimes. Sometimes you have to dig deep to figure out what the good parts of every situation is. You know what I mean? So, and even if you can't see it, okay, just create something good from it. Learn to adapt, learn to grow from your mistakes rather than let them hold you back, and realize that you are the only person that can hold you back. No one else can hold you back. Everyone else can have their own points of view. They can, have their own set of energy that they can try to influence into your life, but it won't go anywhere if you don't feed into it, if you don't give power to it. And that's what we all have to focus on, giving power to ourselves, empowering our current life, and not so much what we didn't do, but what we're doing now and what we plan to do. Um, and this is I'm gonna give some examples of the problems of dwelling. Even though I've listed some already, I want to get more in depth with the problems of this, because the more we see the problems and the more we get to the root cause of these things, we can get a better understanding of how to develop better coping mechanisms, because this is a coping mechanism, believe it or not. It's negative, but it's something that we do because we're overwhelmed and it's subconscious. So it is a way to cope. It's just not a good way to cope. Just because you're coping doesn't mean you're always doing it in the best way. Some people cope through very unhealthy means, and you know exactly what I'm talking about. So just realize that this is a coping mechanism nonetheless. It's just you can find better ones for sure. So dwelling on the past robs us of our peace and our joy. Understand that you can't possibly obtain peace if you're literally driving yourself up the wall with the past, thinking about should have, would have, could have. Like I said, having that kind of phrasing, having that kind of survey going through your mind of what could have been done versus what wasn't done. Having that constant debate of going back into the past, wishing you could go back there, wishing that you could rewrite those wrongs and realize that you can. That's the funny thing about it all. We actually can. That's one thing that you can do. You can rewrite your past by doing better. Everyone is worthy of redemption. So redemption is something that we all can achieve. So don't think that, oh well, I can't do better. My life is over. Like I did all of that stuff and everybody knows me for being this way and there's no way I could come back from that. Of course you can. It's called redemption. It's called doing better, focusing on the future, figuring out, what about you back then was bad versus what's good. Are there any good parts of you that you can bring to the surface? And I'm sure everybody has something good about them, if not more than one thing. You know what I mean? So I don't believe that there's people with purely evil intent all the time. I feel like we don't have evil intentions for the most part. I just feel like we get easily influenced by our surroundings and by anxiety. And anxiety causes you to do things that are nonsensical. Let's just be honest. So that's why I don't think anything that anyone does is stupid necessarily. It's just you don't have the proper information. And even if you do, you may not even understand how to utilize it properly. You know what I mean? Nobody's ever told you, or you've never researched, or you know what I mean? Ignorance is not blissful at all. Ignorance is just something that we're all prone to. We just didn't know. And like I said, even if you did know to a certain extent, you didn't know enough to do better in that situation. And that's where you have to forgive yourself, because we all do these things. It's not that we want to all the time. It's just we're emotional. We have to realize that we're emotional people. Emotions cause you to do things that you never thought you could do, never thought you would do, and never thought you had it in you to even want to do it. You know what I mean? So it's just a part of being human. Not saying that you're enabling yourself and that you should just make excuses for yourself and say, oh, well, I just didn't know, so I'm going to just keep doing the same thing. No, know better, learn to do better, realize that you didn't know and figure out what you should have done, versus what was done. You know what I mean? It's okay to figure out what could have happened, but don't harp on it. Just do it for your own personal set of research so that you'll know how to apply it in the future. That's all you're trying to do. You're not trying to go back in the past with it. You're just trying to make sure that you learn the lesson so that you can keep moving forward, so that you can actually be successful. That's the goal. You don't want to harp on the past. You just want to learn from it, grow from it, build from it, and keep it pushing, you know? So realize that nothing in this lifetime is worth taking your peace away or taking your joyful moments away, you know? Those are things that we should not be willing to sacrifice. We shouldn't sacrifice our peace or our joy. We should find ways to increase peace and increase joy. If anything, that's not something that we should be running away from. And I understand that sometimes subconsciously we do things because we're afraid to be at peace. We're afraid to be happy because we've lived a chaotic life for so long, or like I said, we don't know anything else. So sometimes it's natural for us to go to what's familiar versus what's unfamiliar. So that could be a subconscious mode of self-sabotage that you're going through, making mistakes and inevitably because you're not realizing that you're afraid. And you don't realize that that fear is influencing your life in so many different steps, and you're not looking at the steps. You know what I mean? So that's something that we have to really take full responsibility of, is our actions and realizing why we do what we do and what happened, to the fullest extent. Not fantasizing what we wanted to happen or what we'd like to happen, but what actually did happen, you know? So just realize that life is all a process of taking the good with the bad. Everything is not going to always work out. Everything's not always going to go wrong either. Sometimes it's going to be a combination of both good and bad. You might have a really good day and you might have some bad things happen. You might have a lot of blessings and you might do a lot of great things that day, but then you might mess up along the way as well. But don't let what you messed up on overshadow what you did really well. That's important to realize that it goes hand in hand. In order to grow, you have to make mistakes. It's inevitable.
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
To grow, you have to get things wrong so that you can figure out, what to do. So if you had all the answers, life wouldn't be as fulfilling anyways. So that's what keeps life interesting. That's not to say that we should enjoy hardships or that we should take pleasure in going through things. Of course not. But we should realize that it's not going to break us, though. We should take pride in knowing how strong we are and how strong willed we are, because we have so much strength within us. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't even think science can fully prove how strong a human being is. They have so many different theories, but I feel like we're so complex and we're just so different, and we evolve so much each and every day that science cannot keep up with that. We can't even keep up with ourselves because we're changing every second. So, and that's something to realize too. Like, you are no longer that person. That is no longer you. And like I said, even if you do have moments that kind of favor the ways of your past, that doesn't mean that that's still you. That doesn't mean that you can't push forward. That doesn't mean that you can't grow and do better. Not at all. It's just there are some things that you have to heal. There are some things you have to eliminate. And there are some things that you just have to face head on. You're not facing things that are still buried within your subconscious. And the only reason why they're there is because they're waiting for you to uncover them. So those are called problems, issues that we have to deal with. We cannot avoid our issues. We have to deal with them. No matter how uncomfortable they may be, no matter how tiresome the process is, how tedious it is, we still have to face them, because that's the only way that we can learn from the past and grow. You can't just sweep everything under the rug. Understand that nobody likes to be the bad guy. Nobody likes to feel like they didn't do what they should have done. No one likes to feel like they're not good enough, or like there's something that they're not doing. You know what I mean? We all want to feel like a leader. We all want to feel positive. We all want to feel loved, and we all want to be accepted. And I get that. And that's why a lot of us, we look at the past so much, because we don't accept ourselves, for who we are. We're not in acceptance of what we did. We don't agree with what we did. And I get that. But you have to learn to just let it go. And even if it wasn't something that you did, and it was let's say it was something that was done to you, you still have to find ways to forgive, not forget, but forgive and build from it. Either talk to that person about it, or like I said, face that situation head on. Take the good qualities about it, take good qualities from it, and utilize that. Don't look at it as a mistake or a waste of time. Nothing in life is a waste of time. Everything that you're doing is a part of the bigger picture, the timeline that is designed for you by divine intervention. You know what I mean? So God is doing these things and behind the scenes, and we don't understand why. We can't see it. But once we get there, we get to that destination, we arrive at the place that we should be mentally, physically, spiritually, whatever the case may be. We're going to look at the past for what it truly is, and we're going to be in acceptance of it. We're going to love that we did what we did and we went through what we went through. I understand that sounds so weird. That sounds so backwards, but I promise you, you're going to love your life at some point. You're going to be in full acceptance of yourself at some point. And you know how? Through self-love. Self-love is going to teach you how to accept what has happened to you. Self-love is going to show you that it worked for you and it's not working against you, So that's why we practice all of these good morals and values every day, having those morals of putting yourself first and taking care of yourself, self-care routines, and positive affirmations and manifestation. That's why we're so spiritual, with the show, because we firmly believe in these things. We practice these things as much as we can. We're learning along with you all, so this is a process for us too. This is a new thing. We're learning so much more about ourselves each and every day, and we're just bouncing ideas around. So understand that All of us are a work in progress. Nobody's better than the next person. Nobody has a past that they're not proud of. You know what I mean? Everybody has a past, a part of their past that they're not proud of. You know what I mean? So it's just natural. Everyone goes through this. It's not that you're a strange person or you're too different. Not at all. It's just a lot of people don't talk about what has happened to them. That doesn't mean it didn't happen. And if anything, that's bad. Like we said, we should talk about it. Why aren't we talking about what has happened to us? Either use that for a series somehow. Like I always say, take that and use that for your life. Use that as some sort of income if you want. Whatever you want to do with it, you can use it to better the world, to help yourself. You can start a book based on what has happened to you. Like there's so many positive outcomes that can come from the past. You know what I mean? You can um invest in that some kind of way. Use that to invest in yourself and invest in those around you. You know what I mean? And give back to the community with it. God gave it to you for a reason. God made that happen to you for a reason so that you can show other people the way, and you can show other people that it's possible to move forward, even from the most difficult situations. You know what I mean? So there are ways to stop dwelling on the past, believe it or not. And here are some of the ways I'll go through it with you and list them. Replace the negative thoughts. Replace the negative thoughts with positive thoughts. Because like I said, dwelling on the past only serves negativity. But looking at the past, hence the word looking, not dwelling, looking at the past and seeing it for what it's worth and maximizing on the worth of the past is going to give you the positivity that you need. So replace the negativity with positivity. Figure out what you can do.
I'm getting blown now. I'm in my zone now.
Renew your mind with, positive influences. Rewrite the negativity with positivity. Start looking up different articles based on your experiences. Get into different communities. Start bonding with other people around you, and try to figure out, how you guys can resonate and build together, or, start a group of your own with it, but figure out how you can influence your life in a good way or a positive way based on what has happened to you. So start to renew yourself, reset and find a balance again. Don't let it be all bad. Don't let that past go in vain. Do something with it. Use it to your advantage. If you really research and you do enough hard work, you'll figure out a way. I know it may sound impossible, especially because there's such a thing as trauma, but understand that that's how all of these organizations are started, based off of the past. A lot of these people who are successful, they took their past and they built from it. You know what I mean? So if anything, like I said, it's a blessing in disguise, but it's all in how you view it. If you want to view it as a punishment, then yeah, it's going to be, or seem, not going to be, excuse me, it's going to seem like a waste of time. But if you use it to your advantage and you see it as a blessing, that's exactly what it's going to be, because of manifestation, you know? So another good way to stop dwelling on the past is to talk with God. Use the power of prayer, Spirituality is something that saves us all each and every day. We all have something that we believe in. Having a strong belief system is something that can help you to stop looking at the past for the wrong reasons and stop looking at the past, period. You're going to get to a stage in life where if you have enough conversations with God, you will move on and you will understand what He has done for you, and you won't question it any longer. I think it's just you have to have maybe a more in-depth conversation with Him, and then you can figure out what has happened to you, what's the reasoning behind it. Ask Him to shine some light on it, to enlighten you, to guide you, because you're in a state of confusion and frustration, and to just replace anything that's negative with positivity for you. So practice the power of prayer. Depend on spirituality. That is something that you can't get enough of. You can never be too close to God. You can never be too close to your higher self. If anything, we need more of that. That's something that we should definitely obsess over. If you're going to obsess over something, obsess over your relationship with God and the spiritual source. Okay. That right there will never lead you down the wrong path. And like I said, evaluation, have an honest conversation within yourself and evaluate things for what they were, not what you had hoped them to be. Look at the facts, look at the evidence, and learn to practice forgiveness. Even though it's hard to process the truth, and that's why we don't like the past a lot of times, because of the truth of the matter, what comes from the situation, what we learned about the situation. It may be a hard pill to swallow, and that's okay. Not saying that you have to rush the process. Understand that this is all a part of the healing process, so take your time, but digest the truth. Don't avoid the truth of the matter. Don't overlook the truth. Take it in, take it for what it actually was. I understand that we all have hopes and dreams and desires, and we just want something to happen so badly. And when it doesn't work out that way, we get very discouraged and we get distracted by what could have been. But we have to focus on what happened and how we can make what we want happen instead. You know, it was something that didn't work. Okay, a strategy that failed in a way. I don't want. Well, I shouldn't say failed. A strategy that just wasn't the best. I'll put it that way. It wasn't the best strategy, but that's okay. We can keep moving. We can keep figuring out different things, different ways of being. And focus on gratitude, of course. Be appreciative for what has happened to you, and not look at it as a waste of time. And understand that you have to process it and you have to heal from it no matter what. That is inevitable. Excuse me. Um, and honestly, eventually you're going to get to the stage, which is the hardest stage ever, of letting go of the past. Wrapping things up and not holding it against yourself anymore, not holding the past against people around you, those who have hurt you, whatever the case may be, situations that have hurt you, ways in which you've hurt yourself, or ways in which you've hurt others, whatever the case may be. Eventually you're going to get to a stage where you forgive whatever scenario it was, and you learn from it, you've built from it, you've built like a tough skin, you've applied it, you've done the work, and you're ready to take off with it, take off running. And that stage right there is going to be so much more worth it than that obsession stage that we're all wasting time on. That's the only time we're wasting time, is when we're obsessing over things that we have no control over, or as they call it, ruminating, which is obsessing over things that are negative, purely negative thoughts, nothing positive, nothing in between, just negative 100%. So that right there is not going to get you anywhere. If anything, it's going to help you to stay stagnant, and that's not something we want. We don't want to practice stagnation. We don't want to practice paralyzing ourselves, because one thing that we really need to take into consideration is that our mind has so much power over us.
I'm getting